Section. Okay, like he said, my name's Neil Arnett. I am one of the district technology coordinators for Pikeville Independent Schools, and I work primarily with elementary students at Pikeville Independent. And my project was about primary robotics using the Lego We Do. And so the central question was, will the use of robotics increase primary students' problem solving and reasoning skills? This 2017 report said that by the year 2030, 85% of the jobs, so 2030, when most of the kids who are coming into kindergarten now, when they graduate, 85% of those jobs have not even been invented yet. So what we really have seen that we need to do is begin preparing students to think critically, to gather information, and be prepared to go into whatever field they create or whatever field is there when they get through high school and they get through college and their studies in the future. So one of the things we did is we started looking at 16 habits of mind, as well as growth mindset and computational and algorithmic thinking, and how those three things work together and how we can bring those out with different STEAM activities in our school. And so the first thing that we did in the fall is we did kind of a pre-survey of mindsets, fixed mindset questions versus growth mindset questions amongst all of our 2nd through 6th grade students. And so one of the things that we found among 2nd and 3rd grade students, challenging tasks are interesting to me. 42% of students disagreed with that. They were not interested in these challenging tasks. They were kind of hands off. Whenever something got too hard, they wanted to quit. They wanted to give up. The other thing that we saw, and this was our biggest area of concern, is the question, successful people are born that way. 65% of those 2nd graders I was working with believe that people are successful because they were born that way. And so therefore, if they think they weren't born successful, they think they're not going to be successful. And so through some of these challenging activities, that is what we were trying to push back against and begin working with them to change their mindset. So what we did is we started doing this. It is mainly a collaborative project with our library media specialist, Ms. Howard, and our elementary computer apps teacher, Mr. Holbrook. And so the three of us in collaboration started working with these students. The grant that I did was to work with 2nd and 3rd grade students and introduce the Lego We Do robots, which are a primary kind of level curriculum from Lego robotics. And so one of the things that we discovered in teaching these students to work collaboratively in teams is Mrs. Howard said, these kids can't talk to each other. Okay, so we discovered that we really needed to begin working on accountable talk and working on how they hold conversations with their teams when they begin working in these groups, especially if we're expecting them to work in teams and collaborate on jobs that haven't even been invented yet. And then the other thing is we started introducing the design engineering process. And so through that process, we encourage students to ask questions, to find solutions. When those solutions don't work, we go back to the drawing board, we ask questions, why didn't that work, and we continue through that process. So as they begin designing and tinkering and making things and they don't work, we teach them to take those failures quickly and move forward with those. So like I said, the Lego We Do robots that we used, we actually introduced these through our junior engineers program that we started this year. So every Tuesday for an hour and a half, the three of us meet with about 45 students that are 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. So we have this huge group. We divided them up amongst many of the different STEM and technology activities that we got this year, and we started introducing those 4th, 5th, and 6th graders to these so we could learn kind of what are some of the things to do and not to do. And it also created this small army of instructional assistants, so to speak. So as we did this project with 2nd graders, we brought in some of our expert 4th graders alongside those 2nd graders to help them out, and they were really great to be kind of our hands and feet. We also last night had our second annual STEAM night at school, and this was one of the activities. And so we had a couple little students that just have really surprised me this year. They were kind of quiet and timid and shy, and last night they took over a lot of our exhibits where we brought these out, and we had students from kindergarten all the way through 6th grade coming through to experience some of these things that they've been using this year. And so we had some of these little girls and little boys that hadn't really said much ever that I've known them, and all of a sudden they're taking over and they're teaching, and I would just turn booths over to them and let them run. And so it was really cool to watch that last night. And also through this, some of our anecdotal evidence that we have collected is just listening to those comments. Initially, there was a whole lot of, oh, I can't do that, or this didn't work, I quit, or will you show me what to do, or what are the steps, and that sort of thing. And really, we were very hands-off. We're saying, here's this, create. And they're like, what do I do? Create. But how? What are the steps? Create. And so pushing them now, it's like they're asking specific questions, and they, they're saying, okay, if I do this, what will happen? Let's see. If that doesn't work, we'll start over and we'll do something else. So the last part, looking at the computational and algorithmic thinking. For years and years in education, I've heard we need to teach students to think critically. But I never really myself understood exactly how do you teach someone to think critically, critical thinking. And so computational thinking is actually just a set of steps that can help, and it can be applied to any area of education. And so with the algorithmic portion of that, looking at decomposition, getting those students to break down problems. If they see a problem with the world, how can we break that down into smaller pieces and then start to think about solutions to those smaller pieces? Beginning to look at things and see what kind of patterns do we see. And then abstract and begin to design and go back through that process over and over. So again, we had our STEAM night, we have our junior engineers, we've had a lot of support from other organizations. We earned the Entre Ed designation, and we have began to take their creative solutions and say, okay, now the next step, how do we offer those to the community? We're learning about entrepreneurship, and so that has been a really great partnership along with our ARI partnership this year, and it has opened up a lot of opportunities for us. And so that is our start with making and the primary robotics at Pikeville Elementary. Any questions?